Welcome back, everyone, to my lectures on our world of Jeor'n-Dith. As always, I am Taishi, your instructor, and this is... Today's lesson will focus on the continent of Dinakerd. As you might know, it is the continent known for its clerics, paladins, and other religious figures, and features to not only study, but to live alongside in general, as it houses the lead churches to 15 of the 16 gods, with the only outlier being the church dedicated to the Thunder Daddy, which exists in the Grandpa Tree of the Roth, which we will once again cover at a later date. One of the other fun facts about Dinakerd is that all 5 godlike dragons made their homes here, leading many to believe it has magical powers that boost those innate to the dragons. The first location we will be talking about today is... The Ancient Hollow is a rift inside an alcove of the Rosary Cliffs that leads to the Astral Sea. Some who have been in the vicinity of this rift for prolonged amounts of time have reported sights of dead gods, cosmic horrors, solar dragons, and the like in their dreams, and some who continue to stay near the rift claim to see these visions whenever they close their eyes. Some have taken these sights as being a call to adventure, while others have gone insane. I myself do not believe that these messages are reasons for you to adventure. However, most of those who took these messages this way were more likely than not prone to leaving for adventure on their own. Very few items or creatures have ever come out of the rift, including those that have gone in, leading many to believe that those that enter the rift die immediately. And this may be true, as the creatures within the Astral Sea are extremely dangerous, as is the lack of air. However, as someone who has traveled through the rift and through the Astral Sea, I can assure you that you can survive as long as you have either the ability to leave immediately, hold your breath for prolonged amounts of time, or have a secondary way to breathe. But this finalizes our talk on the Ancient Hollow, and we will be moving on to the next location. The crooked crystal courtyards of Count Kreith, to many people's dismay, is only phonetically alliterative, this being broken by the Count who created this place and was named with a K instead of a C, and also a nonsense name. It covers an entire island off the southeastern coast, and although you might think it was crafted to be on an axis, it was instead built as a standard tier system of gardens and courtyards that have since fallen into disrepair and transformed into their crooked state that they are known for today. As mentioned before, the island has been transformed into many tiered or cascading yards and gardens, all leading up to an enormous fortress that has since fallen into ruin after multiple centuries of decay and neglect. The once pristine crystal halls of these plazas now stand chipped and cracked, yet retaining a haunting beauty that fascinates those who visit. The gardens, now overgrown, host vines that entangle those that walk by, and bushes that pierce explorers. In each of the yards a special fountain sits. These fountains are only now known as corrupted fountains, and are believed to be the reason for the falling of this immaculate estate. However, nothing has been proven. This ends this portion of today's lecture. Our next portion will cover... The Elderspire woodlands are commonly mistaken as a strange plateau with numerous interconnecting caves. However, what is considered the true forest in this location are these caves, as what they truly are the roots of the first generation of reawakened elder trees that have combined over the several hundred years that they have been growing. These elder trees were evidently the largest of the 4 groups, in both size and number, seeing as they have merged together to form what could be mistaken as a plateau. Similar to the forest of Dornix, those that traverse the area of this forest may reportedly hear screaming of agony and despair, believed to be the spirits of the elder trees that were unfairly murdered in the distant past. One other identical piece of information about this forest is the organization of the Rings of Lore. However, this sect has a much different beginning than the other branches. This one started as the Council of Five, referring to the 5 Loxodons that started it in the beginning. However, soon after, the Flaming Fern Guild sent an expedition out to the forest to create a branch of the Rings of Lore in the Odd Forest. However, unlike the Eidolon Circle, the Council of Five cooperated with the expedition and became one organization under the name of Rings of Lore, as it was the more well-known of the two. That is all I have on the Elderspire woodlands. Our next location is technically 4, however they are very similar to each other and have not much to them. I will cover them all at once. This is... The 4 Draconic Ruins are really ruins dedicated to 4 of the 5 dragon gods, Io, Bahamut, Sardior, and Tiamat. The other will be covered in the next location, but that is not what this section is about. All four ruins are nestled in enormous caves, each housing the homes of the servants of the gods. Scattered around the continent of Dinakerd, each ruin has its own special features. Bahamut's ruins have precious metals embedded into the walls that have been rumored to grant some the powers of Bahamut if you are deemed worthy enough to wield weapons made from the metals. The ruins of Sardior have beautiful pre-carved gems that are said to hold within them the souls of the Thanes that stood at Sardior's side during the Great Dragon War. The cave that Tiamat made her home is full of what should be colorful objects that have, by some means, been turned completely grayscale, as if she stole the colors from them to empower herself. The atmosphere of this ruin is also extremely silent. The silence where you feel like you would be in trouble if you said anything. The Draconic Ruins of Io, who is otherwise known as the Great Dragon God, has the largest cave of the Draconic Ruins and has a combination of all three previous ruins. The precious metals, beautiful gems, and colorful objects, however, differentiated from Tiamat, these objects are still extremely vibrant. In stark difference to the ruins of Tiamat, once again, is the atmosphere. Well, inside these ruins, you will feel the subtle hum of creation running through your body. As I said before, the Draconic Ruins have very little to them, which is completely contrasted by our next location. Issek's cradle is home to the first and by proxy oldest of the dragon gods, Issek. Surrounded by three concentric circles of valleys, each multiple miles long and 10 times deeper than they are long, the smallest circle is immediately followed by a mountain range where the lowest peak is twice as tall as the valley is low. With that being said, I am confident in my statement that, without the use of teleportation magic, Issek's cradle is the most difficult location to reach in the prime material. However, if you do manage to somehow find your way inside the hideout of the second strongest dragon god, you will be met with one of the most beautiful views you will ever see from an objective standpoint. In the very center of his lair, a mountain taller than the surrounding mountain range has been made to have the appearance of a wyvern perched on its tail. The inside of the head is hollow, however, none have managed to breach it, as teleportation skills are blocked when trying to reach the inside, and the stone that the mountain is forged from is completely impenetrable, even with modern technology. Within the two wings of this statue are two cores of the primeval plane, the cores being of earth and wind, respectively. Directly underneath the statue is a crystalline pool of magical cleansing water that refreshes the body of those who bathe in it. Currently, the Wizards of High Grade occupy the previous Wyvern King's lair. However, this only happened fairly recently, as before High Grade was in the picture, the Wyverns were one of the most powerful forces in all of Jeor'n-Dith. That is all the information I have given you about Issek's Cradle, and thus all the information I can share with you today. This concludes my lecture on Dinakerd, the religious capital of Jeor'n-Dith. For those of you paying attention, you'll know the next lecture topic, as there is only one continent left. But for those of you who haven't, next week we will be talking about West Torin.
Can't stop, won't stop, running to the bag. You lose, I've been running, shit, know I can come and last. Can't stop, won't stop, running to the bag. I've been working too long, no, there ain't no time for naps. Can't stop, won't stop, running to the bag.